Well, hello there, beloved friends, and we are back with another Dawn of the Golden Age podcast. Today, we have Emmeline Miramar, who I have been utterly blessed to receive as my assistant, as my personal and fabulous assistant for now, because this beloved one, I feel, is going to go on and on and on and become her own woman, and rightfully so. So I am just so delighted and honored to have her with us today, and for as long as she wishes to be at my side. And today's conversation has been called Embodying the Future, because I asked Emmeline to come on to be the voice of her generation and to openly and bravely share with us how her generation, she's 29 years old, how she feels, what does she face before her at this time. Now, I've told the whole world I'm 50, but just in case you missed that, I'm 50. And I'm a Capricorn, and us Capricorns, we embrace our eldership. We do not mind the going into our older years. So I totally feel like 150 in my being. And I need to hear what the youth has to say to us. So I'm just going to take you over to our darling Emmeline for her to just pick up on this conversation. She's 29 years old. It's 2020. We all know what's going on. More and more is becoming revealed to us. So as a young woman standing on the threshold of perhaps married life, of perhaps becoming a mother, of perhaps embracing her sacred purpose, what is it that's going on for you, Emmeline?
Well, I would say that rather than going on in the same manner and in the same way that what's been mirrored through us in the past generations, it really feels like, for me, and I think for us, for many who feel like me at my age, it feels like tearing away, like destroying old things. It kind of feels like going backwards to readdress and to go back and to relook at things and to bring it's a revolutionary spirit to really shake things. There's this real tension and anxiety, I would say, about the current world climate, that it's impossible to really, if you're feeling sane and connected with your body and you know how you feel and you know what you need, then it's really hard, I think, to settle as we've seen past generations settle, because the body won't let you. It's like there's this anxiety of, I need to share my voice, and it becomes like a huge occupation. For me, it's like I don't personally feel called to have children right now, or I don't know when. It's not even on my radar, because I feel so preoccupied with urgent things on the earth, or how things like, how do I even have a house to have a child in if I wanted a child? And it's not really about, it's like, how do I even do that? Because practically, on a really mundane way, just the housing market in the UK is utter shit. We can't, if we were going to buy a house, we couldn't get a house unless we got a mortgage. And that whole discussion is for us, it's irrelevant to even go down that path, because we just have this very strong feeling, well, the banks aren't even reliable, we don't even trust it, so we don't even want to be involved in that. And for us, it's just a complete obvious, black and white. It's not, we need to do research. It's just like, no, we're not interested at all. And so really it's quite an amazing opportunity to turn away from those things, because I think it's become really obvious now. And with all of our energy and our gumption, it feels like let's go into alternative things. And now it feels like the time is right for that, because maybe before they were too wavy and there wasn't enough dramatic need, whereas now there are options that feel real and tangible, like building your own home and your own homestead with your own hands, or living in community and really committing to growing food. And it's not like hippie or like alternative, but it's like really needed and substantial and solid and wholesome, and makes a lot of sense if we think about, we don't even know what the discussion is internationally about foods as we go out of the EU, and what our protocol is going to be as a country. And all of those things externally for me cause me to look internally, and we have to build our own kind of empire, our own sovereignty ourselves, because it's like there's nothing to be trusted in outside in the politics, but in the relationships there is. And in the wholesome heart-to-heart relationships with one another, they become lifelines. So there's a lot of people who I know who is setting up base in communities around, like in the UK or even overseas, and really starting to just go really simple. And, you know, being aware of technology and how to be separate from it and be involved with it, and just deal with that balance and create a really balanced way of doing life, where we can keep sane and keep rhythms, because we're looking at our parental generation, and a lot of them are exhausted coming up to the pension and are running around like headless chickens. And it just feels like a real homing in on the wisdom of every day, like how to get up and go to work if you go to work outside or whatever you're doing, and then how to come back and to have a separate time of food, bath, time with people. Because with the rise of all the technology and stuff, it's so easy to just get wound up into this ever-going stream of just losing control. So there's a lot of like very strong boundaries that I feel are coming in, yeah.
I would like to ask you, well, first of all, I want to really put my hand on my heart. When you spoke about, you know, there's no point in dreaming of a home because you won't be able to get a mortgage in the UK and all of that stuff. I just want to put my hand on my heart that you feel that way and that your generation feels that way. I felt that way. But that is a big one. That is a huge, you know, that is of the root chakra. So I just want to honor you for having to live in this way. And of course, you know, I'd never allow that to happen to you. If you couldn't set up home in the UK, I would just grab you and Johnny and bring you to France. Because that's what we had to do. We got out of England because there wasn't much hope in England, and we set up in France. I would like to ask you honestly, you 29, when you look at the older generation, your parents, myself, and older, how do you feel about us? Do you think we've got our heads in the sand? Do you feel we're awakening and joining forces with you? Do you think we're just like, well, we're off now, so there you go? What is it you feel personally, and what do you feel your peers feel?
I feel a mixture of things. I feel that there's some really strong, fiery mouthpieces and activists like yourself, like other women who I know, and And my mum as well is an amazing practical activist with Extinction Rebellion. And
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, and then on the other side of things, there's there is this coming in this clash where it feels like we're going head to head. And I think what it is it's very much this, we're, or me personally, rising into my power and starting to see beyond blinkers even more. I mean, I thought I could see beyond, like, we're always increasing in our perspective, right? But rising and speaking in power, and then people who are not able to see that, who are older, start to kind of want to squash you. I want to just tell you, no, well, that's not the truth, or that's not correct, or come back into the middle ground a bit more, and just wait, or whatever. And it's like, well, this isn't really your future in the same way that it is ours. And it's really important for the generations that come afterwards to carry on a new voice and a new perspective, and that is always going to be radical and different. And I think what I'm getting at is it's to do with the hierarchy of belief patterns and thoughts, and what we inherit through schooling systems and through parental raising kids. You inherit the system of, you're learning from the teacher, and then you're kind of below the teacher, and you grow, and that kind of gets inherited between the generations as well. So the older generation, and you have to respond to them, and you're younger than them, and therefore you're not as wise as them. But there's I feel like that's true in a way, but also there's really important to be able to, I think we've inherited a lot of belief in hierarchy, and a lot of belief in like believing what society, believing what the political, believing that is all real, and has a strong solidity to it. It takes us away from our own inner wisdom and our own embodied wisdom. And I think the more that it's coming out, and we're speaking from own authenticity and integrity. Old belief in hierarchy, and it's still coming through for me, so it's hard to find the words, but it feels like this real, like simplicity of speaking truth, and still somehow there's this demand for it to align with some kind of system, or some kind of truth, or some kind of doctrine, and it's never going to do that.
No.
So
I think the hierarchy, this is a reflection and expression of the patriarchy. And once the feminine within us, both men and women, that outlook is a circle. Everyone's together, everyone's on a level together. A council involves older people, younger people, and we all have our equal and important voices. And I remember when we had Andrew on the sexual fluidity episode, and he was very, very clear about how us older folk must learn to really listen to the young ones for guidance, for information, for how to. And that stuck with me, and that's why, you know, you're here, Emmeline. How would you see elders, this understanding of elders, of wisdom keepers, the older people? How would you like to see that show up for you? What do you feel the older people can bring to you personally, and your generation? Sorry.
I think a lot of it is it's like standing, like in the circle that you said. If we have that, I love that, the elders of the circle, it's so ancient, and having the younger generation in the middle, closer towards the middle, and then the even younger generation, you know, and going around concentrically. And then the older generation before us, behind me and behind us, standing up as if they're taller, you know, metaphorically, and standing and holding the back, you know, like an angel, like holding the back, holding the vulnerable part of the body, the really strong, potent part. And I've got, like, obviously I've got your back.
Well, that's gorgeous.
And holding that warmth and protection, because it feels like we talked about the root, the security. It's so important to root into the security, and it has to come from inside, because there's not a lot externally for most of us. So to feel that provision and support emotionally, practically, is so amazing. And to be connected, and to receive that relational connection, and practical wisdom. I think practical wisdom is really key, because there's a lot of things that have been tried and tested that is just really great to inherit rather than to go out and do.
That's really gorgeous, Emmeline. What you've just described. See, there you go. Right now, you have just spoken something that I can see how that could actually work. You know how I love doing the sacred body. I would love to bring in a whole group of older people, and to me, I see these kind of like tattooed, wrinkly skin, braided hair, older folk with their blankets, you know, kind of like artistic creatives, you know, in their 50s, in their 60s, holding the outer edge of the circle with these fresh, innovative, rule-breaking, dreaming in young folk. And they can actually turn around and look and feel the encouragement and the support and the yes from the older generation.
Yeah,
you know, we can actually enact that this year. That's just amazing. So you have just spoken that into reality right now. I've caught it. I want to make that happen. I want to make containers happen like that for the younger ones to feel. We are with you. We can listen. We will listen. And you can feel our brawn, you know, our brawn and our hearts. We may not have the energy to break down the systems, but that's what you can do. And you can feel our support.
And I think having that confidence of people carrying that power and that presence and that awareness and consciousness, like yourself, and being and that like being on the recipient end to that, is like it's kind of the birthing, kind of like if I was it's like if I was a mother giving birth, and it's the wise midwife who is there, you know, it's having that woman who is standing there and able to give you direction as potently and powerful, and there's no like mucking around, and it's really that wild, grounded presence that we need, that says it how it is and provides. And that's, I guess that's the beauty of the generation difference, is that the older generation, I was talking with a friend who's been doing this, looking at the different transition points between maiden, mother, Maga, and then crone, and how in the early 50s, and the women coming into their power and the knowledge of where they've been, and being able to give that to the community. And for someone who's coming like me into motherhood phase, receiving that is so like comforting, because it's someone who knows, but someone who's strong and stands and has weathered through the anxiety. So that's really comforting.
This is delicious. So you're 29 years old. You're going through what you're going through. It sounds like your root chakra It is getting blasted open from here to kingdom come. Now, the dark night of the soul, which we're all in and which we will all go through personally if you haven't already, we know it's a tough initiation, but we know at the end of it, we get given this precious and almighty and lasting gift. So yes, your generation is facing this head on. What would you say you are noticing already? What is the gift that you're noticing already? Because you're coming into contact with this on every foreseeable level. What could you birth? What could you and your generation birth because of the immense intensity?
Well, for one, it feels like finally, like it feels like the skills that my soul has that didn't quite make sense because everything was still going along humdrum, and now it's more like, oh, okay, things are shaken up. Okay, now I feel like I have a space a bit more because I feel made to be in this time. And well, I guess there's optimism and knowing that this is what we need to do, this is where we need to be, feeling confident about that because we're here. And I would just say building relationships. Building relationships with ourselves and with one another, and just really knowing that root connection to our body, earth, and really knowing that comfort of being held, in that embrace, in all in the whole of life, feeling that from earth, from heaven, from all around, knowing that there is that beyond transient stream of light that's flowing through everything. It's like being in a storm, and then being at the eye of the storm and knowing that that's the safest place because that's where the light is streaming through the center of the storm, and it's where the peace, there's nothing moving there, but you're in the middle of the storm, and it feels like that's where we need to be. And that's quite like the narrow way, right? It's quite there's a compromise there of letting go, but that's the passageway.
I loved what you said at the beginning before we pressed record. You were saying that you were having this like really palpable experience now, that all the wisdom you ever need is absolutely, without doubt now, inside of you. And you were saying, I can throw away my teacher, not because I disrespect my teacher, but because I have found my treasure.
Yeah.
You can say a little bit more about that.
I feel that our body is the scroll of the sacred codes for what we need, what personally and everything. And the more that we go inside, we'll realize how we need to act and how to move, because she is the earth, and he is a reflection of that. And we've kind of abandoned that by going outside and looking towards how we can achieve this or how we can fit in with whatever. Even spiritually, we look to other people teaching us, and that's all very good. But I think it's really like, how can we, like the guidance that comes from within, she is guiding us. And it's going to be beyond what we've been told and what we think we should do. It's kind of a complete dissolution of the mind to the body. And that she is the libraries of Alexandria and the libraries of far, like everywhere, is contained in the body. And if we can home in and come back to that space, then we have everything to give. So it is throwing everything, all the old stuff off, which I think can seem alarming, maybe. some, but I think it's important to throw off all the old layers, not because we don't honor the teachers and the wisdom keepers and the blah de blah, but just because they were always pointing back
Yes,
internally anyway.
absolutely.
The fruition of all of that, the more we can, I just feel like I'm a crepuscule, or whatever the word is, to really entering the temple of the body. Like, oh, I realize that my body is the temple. Like, actually realize, like, I've heard it for 20 odd years, but I actually realize my body is the temple, and I've just been like abusing her for 29 years. Not literal abuse, but to a degree, I've been unaware of that and stepping over her in my like muddy shoes, not realizing I needed to like clean them. And just little things like that.
I have a lady who's my elder, and I was asking her questions years ago, and she said there will be a moment where all the timelines would fold into, and I was expecting her to say the word one, where all the timelines will fold into one. But she didn't say one. She said none. And there shall be a sacred pause. And I was like, but it's like your generation or younger could be the moment where all the timelines fold into none. And how I understand that now is that everything out there, all those industries and corporations and things that we held on to for navigation and control and understanding and our own position, will just, I'm just going to say the word elegantly dissolve. So everything will just like a house of cards, and there'll be a sacred pause.
Yeah, I feel that.
And then it will begin again, but it will be beginning from the inside, from what is true. And your beautiful, fresh young mind can allow that to happen. It'll be rough, and it'll be, you know, you'll be riding roughshod with no saddle, no bridle, but your mind is able to witness that. Whereas my generation, and again, I'm looking at Pete, and I know he won't mind me using him as an example. His mind, the male mind in, you know, Pete is nearly 60. This is really scary. This is really scary. But the fresher, more unformed mind will allow the sacred witness to just watch it all fall. And there's still something on the inside that the mind can hold on to because it's true, because it's real, because it's genuine, it's authentic. And then the newness coming through the young generation will begin again with fresh and innovative and harmonious ideas, innovations, and creations.
Yeah.
Yay. And I want to play my role. I want to support, you know, I want to stand behind you, literally. My body behind yours, and go Emmeline. You got me. You can fall into me. I'll catch you.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. It is that absolute point, that black void space, which I think the womb, for me as a woman, the womb is just like, it's just everything is homing in on the womb. Like, come back to the womb. Come really into the womb, because I think that's where we're going.
Yeah.
Back into the womb.
We have some ladies staying with us at the moment from California, and we were talking about death. And all three of us have had an encounter with someone dying close to us recently. And I was thinking about, well, in my old world, death usually is embodied by this character called the Grim Reaper. And he is often seen as a he, and he wears black, and he's got this great big scythe, and he's quite a menacing character. You know, one day he's going to appear. This is all in the imaginal realms, obviously, and the archetype. And one day the Grim Reaper's going to show up and he's got your name on his scroll because it's time for him to take you. And I was saying, well, wouldn't it be wonderful if the doorway to death was a feminine, was a woman, a female, because the entrance to life is through a female. What if it's a feminine energy that turns up graciously and beautifully with a beautiful scroll and says, oh, Anaya, it is time, my darling, to escort you to the other world. And so this female hand comes to my deathbed, and I just put my little old lady hand on hers, and she takes me away, rather than this character, the Grim Reaper. So that feels nice. I don't know why I'm mentioning that. The
Kind of like
chords, yeah.
Yeah.
And how everything is changes. It's not just us humans. The archetypes, the internal world is changing too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of inside out, upside down.
Yeah.
Everything's turning upside down, which is funny because the cushion I'm using on my chair is an Eiffel Tower. And when I put it on my chair yesterday, I put it upside down, which I never normally do, and I left it there on purpose because upside down, it's a chalice of perception and just receiving. So everything's inside out, upside down, and we can see everything then, and it's uncomfortable, but it's good because it's real.
So for the last moment, is there any last words you would leave us with, a lingering, something to contemplate? A wish. If you was to speak to my generation, male and female, you know, if you can just imagine a great big line of people, what would you say to us? All nations, all cultures, all colors.
I would say, I think if we could just something along the lines of letting go, being able to really drop and drop in, drop and be, letting go of the anxieties of this going round and round on a hamster wheel that we've become really good at, and being able to home in on what you really want and what's really important now, and all the other things that we think, or maybe you think you need to do, whether it be for a job or an old way of running a house or family or just inherited things for a while. What would it be to look beyond that? And what would it be like to let go of that? And if that makes you feel afraid, then what would it be like to hold that fear closer to you and to just every day spend 5 minutes feeling beyond your current boundary? Something slightly horrifying, maybe.
I remember in that Messiah series on Netflix, he talks about there's going to be no history. History is going to be part of the sacred pause. It's just going to get wiped out. That we really could start again, fresh. No disputes, no conflict with one another. Just a brand new beginning, a brand new strain of humanity. That would be nice.
Yeah, so it's going to be good.
Yeah. And I just love, my little last word would be that we all just do it together. We learn from one another. There's no more hierarchy. We're all hands on deck. We're in the circle. Girls, boys, men, women, elders and young folk, black, white, all cultures, all everything in the circle together.
Yeah.
Learning from one another and hands on, all hands on deck. Yeah. Well, if there's anything more from you, we could call this a sacred wrap.
Yeah.
Emmeline, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to listening to this again. As many things were said that lit me up on the inside. Thank you for being on the hot seat and sharing your personal voice and the voice of your generation.
It's a privilege. Thank you for this.
You're so welcome.